Hi, this is Willow Wilson at ComicsOnline.
How are you?
I'm good. It is pretty nuts down there.
The boys cast
The boys
just walked
cast.
by. So
Yeah, you could tell the exact second they sat down.
I mean, they're all excited about Poison Ivy. So let's face it.
That's what that is. Yeah.
So DC's All In Initiative, Poison Ivy gets to continue. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Where does her story start for the All In Initiative? What's the new launch point for new readers?
So anybody who's read the series so far knows that Poison Ivy has just had a final showdown with her longtime nemesis, Dr. Jason Woodrue, and is kind of turning over a new leaf, no pun intended.
Little pun intended.
A little bit of pun intended. She's got a new costume, a renewed passion to rewild the earth, and also a new interesting wrinkle in her plans in the form of some villains that we maybe haven't seen before, also some characters that fans have been asking to see for a long time who are going to come back into her story. So we're sort of after her long road trip to sort of deal with her demons and her past. She's coming back into the mainstream DCU, and we're going to see some characters that we haven't seen in a while. And she's going to have a lot of new challenges to take her on. We're also getting more into the esoteric, kind of magical aspects of the mythology of the green, bringing in some of those characters, some of whom we haven't seen for a couple decades. So it's very exciting. And, the people who were waiting for her to sort of be brought back into the DC universe proper are going to be super excited at what's coming up. Mythology that has, sort of the Alan Moore era, where Ivy's backstory and her power set kind of converges with characters like Swamp Thing, is definitely going to be part of the story. And we have the just recently announced Swamp Thing Ivy crossover coming out in October, which people have been asking for since day one. It is gorgeous. It is disgusting and beautiful. And we're super excited for people to see it.
So you mentioned Alan Moore, and Swamp Thing's obviously a very beloved character. How would you describe their working relationship within the context of your horror theme story?
Poison Ivy and Swamp Thing?
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting. They have overlapping power sets. They're both obviously very connected to nature, tied into the green, but as people, they're incredibly different. Swamp Thing, obviously, because he's been around for so long, he's gone through several different incarnations. He's tied very closely to the green. He's more of an avatar. At some points he's less human, at some points he's more human, but his motivations, his personality, his way of reacting to things is no longer as human as, say, Ivy's are. Ivy can act on impulse, she gets angry, she gets sad, she maybe acts rashly at times. And their methods are very different for how they want to achieve what they want to achieve. So we see the overlap, but we also see them butting heads in this crossover.
Now, please forgive me, I'm blanking on your artist co-conspirator for this.
Mike Perkins
yes.
on Feral Trees.
Yeah.
Oh, incredible.
So can you talk about your dynamics as far as breaking your stories? I love hearing the behind the scenes of just how you guys work to craft your story arcs.
Yeah. That's a great question. I try not to get in the artist's way as much as possible. I want to put as much detail in as I think will be helpful, but not micromanage, especially for an artist of Mike's caliber. He's been at this for a long time. His work is so painterly and so surreal and so beautiful that I didn't want to crowd it too much. And so I took that into consideration writing the script. The dialogue is the dialogue that needs to be there, but we're not going on for paragraphs and paragraphs, so that we get that wonderful painterly, naturalistic flow. Another fun thing about this crossover specifically is we get to see inside Ivy's mind and Swamp Thing's mind at the same time, sometimes on facing pages. So we get very different narrations of the same scene, so that we can see from both of those perspectives. And the way that Mike handles that on the page is just incredible. I've already picked out the original art that I want to buy off of him, because this is stuff that you could hang on the wall. It's also set during the winter, because I thought that would be an interesting twist. You know, both Ivy and Swamp Thing, obviously their costumes are green, they make things grow, and so the vibe that they go off is more of a spring-summer thing. So to set them in a forest that's in deep winter, there's no leaves on the trees, there's snow on the ground, gives a really arresting and dramatic look to the whole thing that he just does masterfully. And I know we loved working together. It was a unusually frictionless experience. So yeah.
Great. And now is Poison Ivy also dealing with the Absolute Power event at this time?
Yes, not in quite as a direct way as some of the other books, but we are definitely getting into the nitty-gritty of who can do what in the DC universe, who holds the reins of power, you know, what are sort of the hidden power dynamics that we maybe don't see, and we're bringing back some old characters to kind of help tell that story. So it's going to be really exciting.
What excites you about the All-In initiative for DC? It seems to be a different... I mean, the Dawn of DC was an amazing setup in general, but the vibe seems a little bit different at this point. Is it because it's more established as far as where things are going, or is it more creative freedom for you? I'd just love to hear your thoughts on it.
You know, I think it's just great to see everybody hyped up and everybody working toward the same goal. You know, I think it's good for creators. I think it's good for fans. Anytime we can bring all of these stories together so it feels like a really cohesive universe, it just helps everybody from a storytelling perspective. So I think for me, that's what I'm most excited about is, you know, I think when you're working in superhero comics, everybody comes together for the big things and then kind of drifts apart. You know, one character's over here, one character's on Mars, one character's, you know, in the Outback. Everybody's in different places. So when everybody can get on the same page and contribute to the same story, it just makes you feel, wow, I'm really part of something big here, and these are characters with decades of history. What a cool privilege it is to be able to be part of this story. And so for me, that's the biggest thing.
My last question for you today is, why do you think Poison Ivy has resonated so well with the fans for so many years?
I think there's a couple reasons for that. One, I think she's one of those characters who's different things to different people. She's evolved over the decades so that depending on where you pick up her story, it's quite different. You start out with something that's like cute and cheesecakey, and she's just a fun Batman villain. She's been through an Earth Mama phase where she was more like a hippie. You know, she's been through sort of the Queen Ivy era when she had absolute power over all growing things on Earth. There's been times when she's been split into different bodies and part of her is a houseplant. You know, like she's just had so many different incarnations that everybody has a favorite era of Ivy. And I think now the thing that really draws people in is she's talking about issues that feel more and more urgent. I think especially younger readers are really concerned about climate change. Everybody now knows that just recycling your water bottles is not going to cut it. And so people are asking the kinds of questions that she asks. And even though she's a villain and she maybe addresses these things in ways that we wouldn't necessarily sign on to, she's asking the questions that we're concerned about. So I think the urgency of that, the fact that these issues are part of her story, are really resonating with people today in a way that maybe they wouldn't have 10 or 20 years ago. And, you know, as a writer, that's been really interesting to me to see play out among readers.
Well, thank you so much for your time today. It's a pleasure to meet you, and we're so excited to see where Poison Ivy's adventures take her next.
Thank you so much. Great to meet you.
Stay tuned for more DC coverage at Comics Online.